The galaxy is burning. Brother fights brother, and treason splits the Imperium of man. This is the Age of Darkness. Welcome to the Remembrancers retreat, coming to you from within the depths of the Vengeful Spirit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Remembrancers Retreat, a Warhammer 30k Horus Heresy podcast. My name is Jesse. I'm here today with Jason.
What's going on, nerds?
I've got Will.
Hello.
And I've got Michael.
Hi, everybody.
So, with the release of the Siege of Cthonia campaign rulebook, there's lots of interesting information, lots of new ways to play, including Zone Mortalis.
Mm-hmm. The notorious Zone of Death.
Yeah, and Michael, you've been kind of like all weekend, you've just kind of been sifting through and seeing what's changed, what hasn't, and you've...
Pretty much. Mortalis is what got me into 28 millimeter in the first place, so yeah. I've been very excited to see the full rules.
Mike, you said it was just real hot garbage, total bullshit. They basically stripped ZM of all its coolness. Is that true, really? Is that true?
What is true is that it's very different
listeners,
game.
I'm completely
bullshit.
It is the exact opposite. It is so much more in-depth now than it was in any previous iteration.
It's real nice, guys.
It is a sub-game within a game for sure. Yeah. So I think we'll dive into it.
It's definitely a lot weirder now, but we're going to dive into that.
Weird is good.
Weird I'm thinking like a very formal and this is the... I feel like these rules are written very explicitly. This is how we want you to do it exactly, because this is what we found has worked the best. At least that's from my gleaming and the changes that I've seen. They're really wanting to put this forward as a competitive element.
That's what I got too.
Not really competitive, but a competitive element to, I guess, frontline games, right? They want you to be like, ooh, this is just as good of a game system as frontline game is, right?
Markedly different.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say right out of the gate, my only complaint with this, they explicitly say no cavalry models and no anti-grav models. So White Scars players rocketing bikes down these cramped little hallways. I'm sorry, that's a thing of the past. They have explicitly made that illegal.
Yeah.
That's not the only thing that's a thing of the past either. But let's take it from the top.
Yeah, before we begin, I do want to give a little bit of a PSA for our podcast. Recently, starting this month, we've switched our Patreon over from a monthly subscription to a per episode basis, because everybody's adults now. We have careers, and sometimes it gets a little busy. And while we used to post almost every week a new episode, it's been very difficult for me for the past quarter of this year, and I felt a little bit bad about not being able to crank the stuff out. Now, granted, I've heard no negative feedback, and everyone's saying, "Oh, we're happy to continue being patrons." But for myself, I wanted to change it up a little bit. So now there are new tiers, and you can go on to patreon.com/RR30K podcast. It's still the same Patreon website, same URL. Basically, I had to because Patreon was weird, and because if I had a account from September 22 or 2022, I couldn't just switch to a per episode basis or per creation.
Right. So it was basically a feature that we weren't eligible for at the time, right? So we had to recreate it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's something with their database or not. So I had basically had to close down the old Patreon, and now it's basically make a new Patreon, just start from scratch again. That being said, I feel a whole lot better mentally, where I'm not like, oh my gosh, I need to get this episode out, or people are paying for nothing.
And I mean,
now it's
mental health is huge. We're always about that. So if this eases the burden for Jesse, we're all here for it. Total support,
But and at the same time, having ADHD is a little bit weird. So when you have something you need to do, you want to do it, but at the same time, your brain is fighting you not to do it. Now I'm no longer fighting to have to do it, and I think, weirdly enough, I might be able to actually post on time a lot more often.
Must be
so we'll
nice.
See what happens.
Must be nice.
Well, that's why they call it executive dysfunction and not executive function.
That's true. But that being said, we've had a whole slew of people already re-up, and a few new people join already before we even post this. So starting with our Legion Sergeants.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the Race for Terra. Thank you. You are now a Legion Sergeant. Jay DeSales. Thank you. You are a Legion Sergeant. David Zarnecki. You are now a Legion Sergeant. Thank you very much. Aircraft Terrier. You are now a Legion Sergeant. Moving on to our elevated levels of Legion Centurions. Richard Bork. Thank you very much. Odvin Fronsdal. Thank you. You are a Legion Centurion. Aaron Maynard. Thank you. You are a Legion Centurion. Moving on to our Legion Praetors. Void Imperatrix. You are now a Legion Praetor.
Hail!
Travis Smith. You are now a Legion Praetor.
Hail!
Matthew Andreasio. You are a Legion Praetor.
Hail! How many more
Rizzuto,
we got?
A few. Okay. Luke Rizzuto. You are now a Legion Praetor.
Hail!
Life Subaquatic. You are a Legion Praetor.
Hail!
Duncan. You are a Legion Praetor.
Hail!
And finally, our new level, Legion Flexomancers, which, if you're in the know, you know. I see Jason over there. He's nodding his head.
Mm-hmm.
We'll retell that story here in the future, but we'll keep it a mystery for now. If you don't know, Rena the Floof, you are a Legion Flexomancer.
Oh, hail, Rena the Floof, the Flexomancer.
Real Snice, you are a Legion Flexomancer.
Real Snice, the Flexomancer.
Chris Mack, you are now a Legion Flexomancer.
Chris Mack, the Legion Flexomancer.
Chap Lannister, you are a Legion Flexomancer.
Chap Lannister, the Flexomancer.
And finally, Andrew N., you are now a Legion Flexomancer.
Andrew, the Legion Flexomancer.
Yep. So the Flexomancers are patrons at a elevated level, and we will be calling those out every episode.
No, we will not be doing.
Maybe not the way that Will's doing it. However,
as an inaugural, last and first time.
Yeah, for inaugural signups, we'll give you a shout out. And the Flexomancers, we will maintain those weekly or those per episode shout outs. So thank you all so much. And
honestly, guys, like seriously, all of you, thank you so much. I really can't believe the support we get for this. It's awesome. We love you guys.
It's helped us subscribe to like better audio equipment and like software. Allows us to do our recordings a whole lot easier than they used to be, especially from remotely. And so with that, patreon.com/R30K podcast. If you enjoy our show and would like to support us, we definitely appreciate it. Now that's out of the way.
All right, jumping into new Zone Mortalis. Just little heads up on how we're going to go through this. We're going to assume that you are familiar with the White Dwarf Zone Mortalis rules, the previous rule set for it.
Real quick, can we plug like what issue that was in? Does anybody have that off the top of their head?
Yeah, I do.
I guess just for reference.
Issue 477.
Thank you. 477, listeners.
An angry corn boy on the cover.
And you can throw it in the trash after this episode because we got new rules.
We're doing the compare and contrast for you, but I just love to do the read along at home.
Yes. There's absolutely nothing else of consequence in that issue. Only Zone Mortalis rules.
That's all you need.
For 30K, that is accurate. Play other games, there might be some fun stuff in there. But the assumption is that you have that White Dwarf, you're familiar with those rules, and you want to know what's new, what's different, why should you buy this brand new book and not just play out of a White Dwarf. And the reason is because there are a lot of changes. Most of them small. We're kind of going to go through in order with what I found. So in the new book, first thing they talk about is probably the most important and certainly what defines ZM, the terrain.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, we've got some small but what I think are going to be significant changes to doors. First off, the White Dwarf had the idea of small doors and large doors. That's actually defined in the new rule set. If it's a 2-inch wide door or smaller, that's a small door. Any bigger, it's a large door. Those
and on
the White Dwarf.
I mean, that is as typical. I think most, the plastic ZMs that you buy nowadays, those doors are 2 inches wide for the small doors, right? So I think that's standard.
Similarly, what can't move through small doors? Dreadnoughts and
I think
Automata
this is a huge change for
4
me.
wounds. Previously, Automata were not mentioned, so no more sliding your big stompy bots through tiny little doors.
Yeah, it's a little weird that they're not natively bulky, but like custodians are, so they had no choice but to impotently hammer at the little void doors.
Well, yeah, I mean, same thing. So it's been changed to bulky 4, and before I was going, my idea was to take a Myrmidon list to Zone Mortalis. It would excel in Zone Mortalis, but they were all bulky 3. So I was like, well, I face a single small door and I'm fucked. Like a door is my downfall for the army. I was like, I guess I'm not running that army. But
now,
it's bulky 4 that's the cutoff for being able to move through small doors.
Raven Guard jetpacks can fit through doors now.
Oh, were they bulky 3?
They were.
Oh my god! Because the wings, they got to put those stupid wings on them. That's
got to have those wings.
Glide farther.
All right. So, what other changes have we seen?
Well, we now have a wonderful sidebar that is all about what happens when a unit is standing in a doorway when that door is closed. And the answer is you smush guys. It's great.
Dang, yeah.
You get rain cord.
There's no safety on these like garage doors or anything.
Nope.
Dang. It's like that scene from Scream.
Particularly with the new mission special rule, system override, which allows you to spend reinforcement points, more on those later, to make a roll, 1d6, add 1 if you have a Cortex controller or an Auspector on the table, and on a 3 or up, all of the doors are under your control. And you can choose whether they are open, closed, locked, etc.
Oh, and that's like a tech marine or somebody savvy, tech savvy, hacking in, and dang, that's sick. You said, I'm sorry. Here also, it says all doors have 3 hull points now.
Yep.
What did they had but 1 before, right?
I'm double checking.
Strength 12, 1 hull point.
It was something like that,
or 13, 11. I don't know. I felt like the doors were inconsequential, and
they really, yeah. So what it was is that small doors were 3 hull points. Large doors were 6 hull points.
Oh,
now they're all just 3.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's easier to smash through doors now.
Pretty cool. So, okay, let me ask you. We're going to sidebar on this sidebar about crushing people. Can you crush dreadnoughts too?
Okay,
so,
sort of.
I can read the rules for crushed if we want.
Go for it.
Oh yeah, go for it. That sounds cool. It sounds like a mechanic I want to meme a lot. So
because I'm also, I need to speak this out too because I got a question. I think so.
Okay.
For crushed, if any model is on a piece of door terrain when it is changed from the open state to the closed state, or this results in 1 or more models from any unit being no longer positioned in unit coherency, the unit the model is part of suffers an immediate Strength 8 AP- wound with no armor saves, invulnerable saves, or damage mitigation rolls allowed. The door terrain is then destroyed and removed from the battlefield if possible. So it's basically like a dangerous terrain, basically, from effectively.
And then removed too. So interesting.
It's like Jesse was saying earlier with the Rancor. If you remember from that movie, the door slammed on the thing's head, killed it, but was still jammed open by the corpse of the Rancor. It's just in this case, it's a poor little inductee, just sitting there bleeding out as the door just.
It was his first week.
It was the first time he saw a door panel.
He didn't cover that in training.
Hey, if it's a space wolf, it might be the first time he saw a door.
Yeah, the question I have is it mentioned this with if it results in the models from any unit being no longer positioned in unit coherency.
Yeah.
Which I guess some of the ZM doors, the plastic ones, might be a little bit bigger than normal. Like if the door closes and like splits off a unit.
So I don't think you can count coherency through a closed door.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this rule is kind of there to prevent that from happening. If that were to happen, the door gets destroyed.
Oh, I see. Yep.
Yeah, so it feels like a fail-safe. Like you squid your window.
Okay, I see it now. You have like a 10-man squadron. The door closes and would split it off. However, because it just smashed somebody and the door breaks open, then you're still in coherency. I get it now. Okay.
It's a fun little failsafe to prevent a weird rules interaction that is also just hilarious.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. It feels like the perfect fix.
Yes. Big fan of it.
All right.
Next up, the White Dwarf rules introduced a weird thing called hazardous terrain. Hazardous terrain was not difficult terrain, not dangerous terrain, just hazardous. Other than that, it was basically dangerous terrain. It was kind of weird. I honestly didn't see anyone ever play with it. And they've now more or less just renamed it. It's now debris and hazardous debris. Again, while this acts very similarly to difficult terrain and dangerous terrain, it is neither. Which means my understanding is that if you charge through debris, you have no way of not having a disordered charge. Because it specifically calls out that any war gear that would protect you against difficult terrain effects doesn't apply. So it doesn't matter if you have grenades. You're not moving through difficult terrain. You're moving through debris.
Gotcha. And it provides a 6-up cover save if you're at least a quarter obscured by it.
Right.
And shooting through it gives you a -1 penalty to hit rolls.
The hazardous terrain, yeah.
Oh, hazardous. Yeah. Excuse me. Yep.
Figure that's something that's venting off gas or something and just making
That's exactly what I thought was that scene in Alien, right? Where like you're walking down and gas goes and you're like, oh shit.
Exactly. All those chains dangling from the ceiling for no reason.
Yeah. But if you're a Primarch or have night vision, you're good.
Right.
Yeah. Which, of course, immediately as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, yeah, Thalax is not going to see smoke. They're just going to see through and see, like, X-ray outlines of people, right? So,
yep. Full-on Predator vision.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Moving on, we come to reactions. And this is where some of the big changes happen.
Reactions are already big. So
in the White Dwarf version, you were not doing any of the reactions from the core book, no Legion reactions, none of that. It was just the 3 ZM reactions. That is now changed. You are now no longer doing the core reactions from the base rulebook, but the advanced reactions are in.
Good.
And any army-specific reactions that you have are also in.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Obviously, this is going to be a lot better for some legions than others.
For sure.
Is
like assassins will benefit greatly from this.
Yeah. Assassins are going to be able to jump, down the hallway and around the corner, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have space wolves just lunging around the corner, down the hallway, around another corner, and chomping into you. Come around the corner,
fucking
and then the
wall running at you. Can you imagine that, dude? A fucking Valkfin Raka just like wall running at you around a corner with an axe and just.
It's gonna be wild.
Hey, they got mag boots for a reason.
Yeah, true. Fuck yeah.
In addition, some of the reactions, some of the ZM reactions, that is, have gotten some changes. Big one I saw was suppress, the move phase reaction that lets you fire snapshots at a unit that comes into view. Now has pinning.
Ooh,
I think this is a great change because that was a bit underwhelming before.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense now, though.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, while still snap shooting, having that pinning, that is, yeah, I'll take
a little
that.
bit it was missing. Embrace has gotten a rewording that honestly I haven't quite puzzled through. So
let's read.
yeah,
Let's see if we can
What
figure
page
it
are
out.
we on?
This will be on page in the new Cthonia book. This is 177.
177.
Yep. On the physical page, reactions in the assault phase for Brace. The reacting unit must make a morale check. If the check is failed, the reacting unit immediately falls back d6 inches and automatically regroups when this fallback move is completed 1 inch from the battlefield edge. If the check is successful, the reacting unit automatically passes any morale checks they are required to make as a result of losing an assault during the following fight phase.
So what I'm seeing as a change is it previously said falls back 1d6 inches and automatically regroups when this fallback move is completed.
Mm-hmm.
My reading of this is that you don't automatically regroup until you hit the table edge.
Well, you fall back d6.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and automatically regroups when this fallback move is completed 1 inch from the battlefield edge. So I guess I feel like it's a failsafe of if you are close to the edge, you will not go off. You will just automatically regroup then.
Yeah. I feel like that makes more sense.
Yeah,
I'm
you're not falling all the way back. Yeah. No, for me personally, I feel like it's cut and dry. Again, everybody reads it a little bit differently sometimes. But my interpretation looks like it's pretty clean.
Okay, it might just be me then.
Well, yeah, you've been looking at it all day, so
yeah.
It's those beautiful times where you look at the same sentence for like an hour, and then you think that's completely different by the time you're done with it.
There is that. Speaking of things that are completely different, displays the shooting phase reaction is not completely different. It is identical. It's still a simple shift, hopefully out of line of sight around a corner.
Oh, I do see. Now I'm starting to see your side too. Because it doesn't say you automatically regroup at the end of the fallback of D6. Mm-hmm. You automatically regroup when the fallback move is completed an inch from the battlefield edge.
Yeah. One of us will send it into GW. They'll figure it out for the errata.
Sounds good.
Not to be negative, but it wouldn't be a GW release if there wasn't something that needed to be errated.
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information.
This book is massive. It's over 200 pages. It's nuts.
If that's the only thing that needs to be errated, I'll be thrilled.
Well, let's keep finding out.
Right. All right. Other thing that changes is game length. As we see elsewhere in the book, you now start seeing if the game ends on turn 4, specifically on a 2-up. On a 2-up on game 4, the game keeps continuing. So on a 1, game ends right then.
Oh, it's on a... Okay, gotcha.
For Zone Mortalis.
Yes.
As a sidebar, which we'll talk about in the future.
The battle continues. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought it was... Okay, yep, nope, we're good.
Yeah, we're working from the notes I took today, so they're written such that I understand them. Everyone else gets to guess.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's why I had to... Because I saw your notes and it said game ends on a 2+, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
You know what I meant.
I know what I wrote.
I do now. But I was like, oh shit, is that like some weird mechanic where like if you roll a 1, they like desperately need to finish the game to 6 turns? That's weird. I was like, that doesn't make sense. But I really fucking believed it, man. Oh no.
I do like that slight chance. Minimal chance, but a chance that it could end right on turn 4.
Right. So you gotta be lining up. And guys, we're gonna get in these missions. They're gonna be y'all. You got to worry about scoring now, okay? So you're going to be needing to line that stuff up by turn 3 to pull it off by turn 4. At the possibility it ends, right?
Yeah. As a sidebar, the new core missions are pretty neat, and we'll get into those at a future time. But with but ZM itself has 3 of its own missions now too. So these are the ones we're going to talk about today.
We'll talk about the ZM missions later on, and we'll gush about the new scoring system then, I think. But on turn 4, you roll a die. 2 up, you keep playing. Turn 5, you roll a die. 4 up, you keep playing. Turn 6, you're done. Which I think is kind of big for ZM, because oftentimes you've got a turn or 2 of just maneuver before you
For sure.
You're going to need to really leverage what tools you have to get stuck in as fast as possible. Unfortunately, I think heavy might be even more of a detriment in this new ZM.
Wow.
You just got to be in there.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I guess, we'll take a look at the missions and see, how rough it is. But
there's also some stuff that might mitigate that. We'll see.
Okay.
There's another small thing that I felt was kind of random, but I think is very much worth noting because I think a lot of people are going to miss it. In every scenario, every turn, you roll a die. The corresponding objective marker becomes a critical objective, and whoever controls that gains 2 additional reinforcement points. Again, we're going to talk about reinforcement points in a minute, but that could be critical. And it's kind of hidden in there.
Is it called a critical objective?
Yep, that is what it's called.
Interesting.
And I think it might be an accurate name.
Yeah. 2 RP is huge, y'all. We will get into that because yikes. Okay.
Next up, we've got new mission secondaries for Zone Mortalis.
What page are we on now? 180.
180.
180. Okay. Yep. There it is.
Secondary objectives, right?
Yep.
There we go. 180. There are 3. First one is the weirdest one. Counter-Strike. It's essentially First Blood, but only applies if you are not the player with strategic advantage. I didn't roll to go first. Second one I love and is Champions of Renown. It's
wait. So Counter-Strike? Yeah. Okay. The player without strategic advantage. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
That a secondary would only apply to one play, but I don't know.
Yeah. I guess it's to try and balance out the first turn advantage.
It might be trying to force or try to blunt the effects of a potential alpha strike.
Maybe, but
to deter alpha strike. It's hard to say.
I'm
gonna have to play a few more.
I can buy that. Here's the thing, right? To deter an alpha strike, you would want to. The alpha striker would want to deploy super aggressive, knowing they're going to go first. But if you had the disadvantage or whatever strategic advantage,
the idea of a counter strike over your head,
right? So you might not want to give them that extra victory point by deploying so aggressively.
It could affect which units you want to have deployed first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd have to play a few missions. I haven't played any of these missions yet, but I'm really looking forward to soon.
Yeah. It is worth noting that at the time of recording, this book is brand new. So we have not had a chance to actually play with the rules yet.
Yeah. Just gone live 2 days ago.
Yeah.
All right. So you were saying Champions of Renown.
Champions of Renown, secondary, is I think going to be a lot more impactful because it's 1 victory point per challenge you win. Kill a character in a challenge, gain a victory point.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Now, as we're going to see later, some of these new missions you're going to be gaining a lot of victory points. It's not going to be 3 victory points and you win, but still.
It's interesting, though, because it really makes you think, do I want to throw my sergeant under the bus like I normally would so my beatstick character can kill a whole bunch of other dudes in the squad?
Right.
Yep.
Dang, giving up victory points for you're like, all right, fine, I'll just feed you a sergeant. Oh, thanks for the victory point. Thanks for the
This is really interesting.
Wow.
It gets even more interesting with the third one.
Go
Blood
for
Toll.
it, yeah.
You get 1 victory point for any HQ or elite unit killed.
So no longer just any unit.
You want to pay that tactical tax and go all in on elites? Be my guest. I get a VP for killing everything but that tactical unit.
That's interesting.
It's no longer a tax when it doesn't, when it has that kind of advantage you're giving them, right? It feels like an elite tax almost.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. It's going to make this building a little interesting.
Question: Would that kind of benefit you too to start taking those retinue units because they don't count as a separate HQ choice to the Master of the Legion that they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm tracking.
Absolutely. And there's more stuff in here that's going to strongly encourage you to take retinues as well. It's really interesting, I think, what they did.
Yeah.
I'm certainly going to be going through and looking at my retinue options again.
I definitely
you're going to want to be running a retinue.
I definitely don't ask because I just finished Vortigern for my Dark Angels. Completely separate conversations, I promise.
All right. Next up, another place where we see some major changes. And some of the more interesting ones, I think. Army construction. I know when I got started in previous edition of Horus Heresy, we were generally playing Zone Mortalis at like 1,000 points. If I really argued with someone, I could get them to play 1,500 CM with me.
1,500 felt like a big game, right?
New recommended game size is 1,500 to 200 to 2,500.
Yeah.
For CM. Almost the size of Frontline.
Yeah.
And to support that, we have a new Zone Mortalis Assault Force chart. You've got one required HQ, one optional HQ. We're used to that.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one required troop, 5 optional troops. So that's +1 troop slot.
Yep.
4 elites, all optional. That's twice as many as the previous chart. 2 optional fast attack, which is the same. 2 optional heavy, which is 1 additional heavy slot. And 1 optional Primarch.
Yeah, boy.
The Primarch is still restricted by the Lord of War / Primarch's points restrictions. But if you're playing on the high end of that, you can now bring a Primarch into ZM.
That's Horus right there.
And the reason you can't just do that in the normal Lord of War allied detachment is because there are no allied or other secondary detachments.
Yeah.
In Zone Mortalis, which I'm sad to see because I've always wanted to do one with Solar Auxilia and my Imperial Fists, but it's not a surprise.
But I suppose you could still take the Titan. Is there anything that specifically says you can't take like Titan Legio? Can you still take Secutari in Zone Mortalis, I wonder?
I think you can, because your faction just needs to be the Titan Legion.
No, you just add it. Yeah, you just add it. As long as this is not saying you are restricted.
The Zone Mortalis engagement force organization chart does not include any optional detachments, and as such may not take allied detachments or Lord of War detachment. I take that to mean is that actually down at the bottom it says explicitly, in addition, additional optional detachments from other sources may not be included as part of the Zone Mortalis force.
There it is, folks. No Secutari.
You get 1 detachment, and that's it.
Actually, no. I guess you could bring all Secutari, I guess. If you wanted to fill all your slots with just Secutari, then yeah.
That might not actually be that bad.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
Okay. Neat.
Also, hear me out.
Yeah.
The Zone Mortalis battle is taking place in the leg of Imperator Titan.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Beautiful.
Oh, my
We're
God,
boarding a Titan.
So good. Oh, man, that's so good. Okay.
So as we're going through, I noticed one thing, because I think it wasn't covered in the White Dwarf before, but they mentioned 15 models is the max size for a unit. This specifically calls out if a minimum size of a unit is more than 15 models, it cannot be chosen as a selection.
Interesting, because I
definitely felt like that was implied, but it's good to see it written out clearly.
Yeah, and it makes sense. If for some bit of a,
I know there were militia players that had issues with that because they were like, "Please, I'll buy a conscript squad of 50 guys and then kill them down and automatically deploy them with only 15 guys remaining. Please just let me do it or whatever.
This puts it in black and white. But I know, like in Warhammer, I think it was in 8th edition. I guess there was a little bit of precedent where it does explicitly call out where if you didn't have the proper size amount of models or stuff, you could,
like an open play, maybe
you can adjust. Maybe,
yeah, because I know in our open play, 30K open play. Yeah, it's
been a while, but regardless.
That was a thing. You're right. I remember it was like you could have if you could have one unit that was not full if you didn't have the models. So like let's say you had 2 intercessor squads, you could have a 5-man squad, and then because you couldn't have another 5-man squad, you could do a 3-man squad if you had like a 3 model collection. But it was like one unit in your army that you could do that with. That's what it was. I'm sorry. We just remembered that. So.
Yep.
But yeah, max unit size is still 15, though that's before you attach anyone to it. So 15 Marines.
Oh, that's good. So you can still put your apothecary and your cool.
Add 2 independent characters if you want, and it's fun.
And a tech Marine while you're there.
Yep. Along with armigers and vehicles that were called out in White Dwarf as not being allowed in Zone Mortalis, you can now no longer take fortifications or cavalry. I feel like that mostly makes sense. You got
to leave your.
I imagine there's a White Scars player somewhere who wanted to, race the bikes down the corridors, but no bikes. Similarly, no anti-grav, though that's not new. Significant change here. You can't have any dreadnoughts, automata, or monstrous creatures with more than 8 wounds. The big change here is that used to be 7. You can now bring Leviathans into Zone Mortalis.
No, 8 or more. Leviathans are 8 wounds, right?
Yeah, it's more than 8, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's 8 or more. 8 or more is
so it's still 7 is the max.
Yeah. So it has to be less than 8 wounds.
Oh, that's annoying. Yeah, okay.
Well, I guess I can't.
I just misread that. Never mind.
Guess I can't bring my... Wait, no, never mind. You wouldn't be able to bring Leviathans anyways. Oh, no, that's for doors. I'm sorry. Weird. Okay, wounds for doors.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. One thing that is definitely a change.
This
now call out, you can only bring 1 dreadnought per 1,000 points.
Yeah. Great change.
That's a good.
I gotta say, these changes, that change anyways, something we probably need to see trickle down to like Centurion and that kind of stuff. Just like
I mean, to some extent, they kind of do. It already limits to a certain and Centurion.
No, it's way more brutal, is what I'm saying. Like I can't bring any automata, and if we had ZM rules for Centurion, I could still bring some shitty Castellax that could get nuked, but I can't even now. Anyways, that's a side tangent. Anyways, yeah, Centurion needs to lighten up to current ZM is what I'm saying.
Honestly, I'm generally not thrilled about the Dreadnought limitations that are out there. In most cases, Dreadnoughts just aren't doing enough damage. You should be able to soak that up while still winning the battle. The one place I disagree with that statement is Zone Mortalis. Just because you don't have many places you can go through, and if there's a dreadnought in the way, your only choice is going through. So 1 dreadnought per 1,000, I think, makes sense. And one that really just makes me sad, but I do understand, is no models may be placed in reserves. There's a similar system that we're going to talk about later, the reinforcement points I've been talking about all throughout. But what this means is that you cannot deep strike, you cannot outflank.
Right. So you can't even bring some of the Hammerfall Strike Force or whatever it is that you run, right?
Well, you can. You're just paying for deep strike on models that then can't deep strike. Though deep strike will get something a little bit later.
I see. So it's not so much it's just not played the exact same. It's played completely different. Gotcha. The mechanic itself is, tracking.
But deep strike you are not doing. Outflanking you're not doing. Any other special reserves you're not doing. You can't bring a termite, but if you could, you wouldn't be doing a termite assault either. Next up, they have a nice little section about laying out a good ZM board. If you've laid out a ZM board, or if you've seen the old ZM boards that they used to sell, it's that. Mm-hmm. It's going to make complete sense. Something I found interesting is that recommended table size is 4x4, and while they mentioned using a larger or smaller table depending on the size of the game, they got rid of the handy chart in the White Dwarf article that gave you recommended table sizes per the number of points.
Oh, really? So it'd be like 4x4 is 1,000 to, or 500 to 1,000, and then...
So 4x4 was 1,000 to 2,000 points. Okay. 500 to 1,000 was 3x3. Up to 500 was 2x2. And 2,000 to 3,000 was 4x6.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now it's just larger or smaller as you see fit.
Yeah.
Something that is new and that folks are going to want to pay attention to is that jump packs and similar war gear that sets a model's movement characteristic cannot be used in ZM areas with ceilings.
Yeah.
I know most of our ZM boards, we assume to have ceilings, and so you would not be able to use jetpacks on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jump packs or jetpacks. So my Thalax have to actually fucking clomp down halls, man. They can't do their jump, shoot, jump thing. But that also means similarly, while they don't have their 13-inch movement, they still have 7 inches in ZM, which isn't bad, right? Mm-hmm. And they're no longer taking difficult and dangerous terrain tests for jumping in the board anymore, which is fantastic. I'll take the sacrifice so I don't have to roll the dice. Absolutely, guys.
GoblinsHut.com is the distributor for the Dirty Down paint line and other hobby products in North America. Dirty Down liquid effects and aging sprays have been used by prop masters in TV and film for over 30 years to create incredible realistic-looking effects in a fast, reliable way. They can be spotted in some of your favorite media such as Star Wars, Game of Thrones, and Alien, just to name a few. That precision has now been brought to the miniature realm and is taking the hobby by storm. In the Dirty Down line, you'll find rust, moss, and verdigris effects unlike anything else on the market. With a vigorous shake and a mix of a bottle, a single wash creates the combined effects of multiple other paints and even provides a subtle texture. Dirty Down's entire line is also water-soluble, so you can achieve a wide variety of effects, entirely reworking, removing, or layering to your heart's content to achieve the perfect weathered look. With this capability, the line is perfect for speed painting while also having the depth for use for competition pieces. If you'd like to buy Dirty Down at a shop near you, ask your friendly local game store to go to GoblinsHut.com for information on stocking it. You can also purchase it direct as well. Also, all listeners of the Remembrancers Retreat can get a 5% discount on your online order with the promo code RR30K, and patrons of the Remembrancers Retreat get 15% off their orders. Once again, that's GoblinsHut.com, home of the Dirty Down liquid effects.
All right, reinforcements is a whole thing.
We're actually there next. So
we're into it now. So let's get into it. Mm-hmm. So long story short, you have your army. You don't get to deploy it though. You don't get to deploy. Instead, you get a number of reinforcement points. You get generally a large chunk at the beginning of the game, and you will spend these reinforcement points to put units in your deployment zone. Most scenarios, generally speaking, you're going to start with 6, and then you'll get another 2 per turn. Any units that you can't deploy onto the board before the game starts, you will place into your reinforcements, legally distinct from reserves, because they're reinforcements, not reserves. But you put them into your reinforcements, and then on preceding turns, you can pay the reinforcement points to bring them out of reinforcements and onto the table. This is another thing that may change based on the scenario, but basically, Primarchs are going to be 8 reinforcement points. So you can bring a Primarch, but you're going to have trouble getting them on the table. And HQ is going to be 4 reinforcement points. Elites are 2. Troops are 1. Yet another reason to bring lots of troops, because you can actually deploy them. Fast attack will be 2 reinforcement points. Heavy will be 3. Retinue squads you get for free with their leader.
Yeah. So was it Jason earlier that mentioned retinue squads? Yeah. Another reason to look at your retinue squads.
You're paying 4 reinforcement points for the HQ, but the retinue squad attached comes for free. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you attach them to like a Legion Terminator squad, you have to pay 4 for the HQ and 2 for the elite. And that's your starting budget of 6. Mm-hmm. That being said, there's another thing that helps, and that is Warlords deploy for half the cost at the start of the battle.
So if you encourages you to put your Warlords down first. So your Primarch is 8 points with his free retinue. Well, now he's 4 points with his free retinue. So not bad. Put him down, get him marching up the table. That's what they want. They want you fucking getting up that board.
Right.
He said everything after that goes into reinforcements, not reserves, right?
Right. It's reinforcements. Then starting on turn 2, at the start of the turn, you bring in reinforcements with retinue points, or reinforcement points. It's going to take me a minute to get the lingo down.
So, question, you said you get 2 reinforcement points per turn. Mm-hmm. Is it like command points in other games where starting on, you earn 1 at turn 1 start? So at this, you're going to earn 2 at 2 start. Is it like that? So then turn 4, you have 2. Let me actually read it then, I guess.
So I think what you're asking is, do they decay? Which they do not.
No. Earn them, do they start accumulating at turn 1? That's what I want to know, is when do they start accumulating?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I'm
sure it says in the book somewhere.
At the end of each turn, each player will gain a number of reinforcement points, unless otherwise noted. This is 2 per player. So it's at the end of each turn. So starting turn 1, at the end, you will earn 2. Okay, cool.
And then you'll have 2 to spend beginning of turn 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And any you don't spend, you keep.
Cool.
So if you only use 5 in your initial drop, you keep 1. Then turn 2, you have 3 points to spend.
Yeah, right on.
If you don't spend them, then you end up with 5 on turn 3.
Very interesting. I like that system. Rather than everybody deploying everything at once, it puts a little spin on it. Nice. Okay.
It's also, I think, why the game size is bigger, because effectively what it is you have a sideboard. You have a large army you're picking from. You pick what units you need. You get them on the table. Also, most missions, it seems, have a fun mission special rule called Counter Assault. This is where things get interesting. Mm-hmm. What this lets you do is it lets you spend additional reinforcement points to bring in units on the flank sides or even your opponent's side.
Right. So this is a simulation of Deep Strike then, right?
Yeah, this is what you get. It's not quite Deep Strike because you're not dropping in the middle where the objectives are. But it's allowing you to play around with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, nice thing that Deep Strike does get is it reduces the cost by 1 to the minimum of the cost of the unit. So you're never deploying a unit for free. Elites are always going to be at least 2 to deploy. But if you want to bring those Terminators in on a flank where it costs 1 more reinforcement point, it doesn't if they have Deep Strike. You just bring them on for 2 instead of 3.
Okay.
Not nothing.
Cool. And then you're able to place them within their movement from the table edge, right?
Yep. They effectively move on their movement.
I think that's a pretty substantial change to the Deep Strike because, Christ, guys, I mean, how many times are we sitting there like, all right, let me roll my dice, and I scattered, now I got to check a table. Oh, I wiped the squad, but only so many of them, so some of them manifested in a wall, others didn't. Great, it's for narrative, but this is to speed up gameplay, which I'm a fan of.
Yeah. So I noticed, and
it changes the strategy significantly. But what'd you notice?
Right. Oh no, I think you're about to talk. Now I'm looking at your notes too, going back and forth. You're about to mention it, so go for it.
So I mentioned +1 reinforcement point to bring something in on the flanks. It's worth noting that these costs and even your ability to do it at all is going to vary by mission. We'll get into this a little bit when we look at the missions. But an example table from mission 1 is it's +1 reinforcement point to deploy on flanks. It's +3 reinforcement points to deploy on the opponent's edge.
Oh, Lord!
So turn 2, you can spend 5 reinforcement points if you have them and bring a 10 strong block of Terminators in through your opponent's deployment zone and just chase them through the map.
That's not bad.
Man, I will say, Pride of the Legion is going to be pretty dope to
Yes.
use in this Zone Mortalis. Holy crap!
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Pride of the Legion is going to be a huge deal. I expect to see a lot of them.
Terminators becoming troops.
Yes,
and veterans
Terminators
being
become
1
troops.
point.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, this is
Now that being said,
game changer.
So with Zone Mortalis, you only have a single compulsory troop choice.
Mm-hmm.
So if I recall, you're only going to be able to get one unit that can score.
Right.
Yeah.
And later, so I mean, even if you did go like, oh well, fine, I'll only have one scoring, and I'll just focus on Terminators everywhere else, and my whole objective will be to table the guy. It has these missions. I do want to kind of spoil it a little bit. They have sudden death rules, so you could be that guy who tables somebody, but guess what? The other dude scored on you.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter. You still lost. Oh, man. It's so great, right? I love it.
It's going to be a big change to the dynamic that I'm looking forward to.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing I want to mention on reinforcements right now is I want to clarify that the counter assault rule only applies to reinforcements you bring on after your initial deployment.
Right. Once they're put into the reinforcements, quote unquote. Rule. Okay.
Gotcha. That's when the deep strike kicks in, or the discount.
It is a lot like a sideboard in the sense like, oh man, he brought Terminators on. I'm going to bring my plasma squad on, and you can, and there are troops. I'm going to pay a little bit to deploy them in an outflank and come around as Terminators. Man, this is going to, guys, I'm so excited. This is going to add so many layers to the game.
I'm going to bring a squad of Terminators with Thunderhammers and a squad with power weapons. If I'm facing a lot of infantry, I'll bring the power weapons. If I'm facing Dreadnoughts or other Terminators, I'll bring the Thunderhammers.
Man, excellent. Genius.
That is really cool. I kind of want to see that more in the actual general core rule game.
Right? It's a huge change, but I think it's going to be really interesting.
You're talking the reinforcements.
Yeah.
It would be neat.
Yeah, just the way.
It would be neat to transpose.
I mean, there's nothing stopping you from playing a 4x6 Zone Mortalis.
That too.
True.
I don't know if you mentioned this or not. I saw one of the cool things as far as seizing the initiative regarding a rule called First Strike, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So what you can do is you can kind of get an edge on the ability to seize the initiative with the First Strike rule after both players have deployed both of their armies at the first, but before the start of the first turn. You can, if you're not the person with, the strategic advantage, you can declare a first strike, and you basically spend all your remaining reinforcement points that you have available and roll a d6. If the result of the d6 plus the extra reinforcement points you saved equals 7 or more, you get to go first. It's another tactical.
Yeah.
It's
really cool.
That's so
What I
sick.
find interesting is that it means you can't roll to seize initiative unless you spend a reinforcement.
You have to pay for it. And
But
you
if you
have
spend more
to.
than one, you do it more easily.
You're right. You have to spend at least one because you're going to roll a 7 at least, right? But then
this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is like a whole. This is economy in a game like this. When you add economy to it, it adds a whole nother layer that just makes it so much richer. When you have currency to spend, oh fuck, it's so good, guys. I'm sorry, I'm just really enjoying it. It's because really, there's no rolling anymore on a 4-up. I hope my guys can come in. There's just let me plan to have this army. I can bring them in, and I will plan to pay, knowing that on average these are the points I'll get. You can do this, but then when the shit hits the fan, you're like, oh fuck, I should have brought the heavy support squad on. It's gonna be so good.
It's like a completely new game. Zone Mortalis. It's a complete new Horus Heresy game.
It really is.
It's kind of neat.
That's what I said at the top, right? It's a sub game within a game already. So
yeah. All right, let's dig into the missions a bit.
As
Will mentioned, all of these use the sudden death rule, where if you table your opponent, you get +1 victory point. and then you add up victory points for each side. Will, if you want to gush more about this, go ahead.
It's an excellent mechanic. It's almost as good. Okay, and I've said this plenty of times. There needs to be a damage phase. There needs to be an all said and done at the end of it, where all your work is counted, regardless of how things ended. The way you got there, it was the story, not the ending, that was the good part, right? So yeah, adding everything up at the end, love it, man. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have 3 core missions. The first one is sector control. This one's really straightforward. You're deploying 12 inches along your board edge. There are 6 objectives, each one scored each turn. Very straightforward. But
Scored
we all
each
like
turn.
a good straightforward
That's key.
unit. Yeah. Good straightforward mission.
Yeah. And again, that's is going to be key right there. Scored each turn. So
Bring
try
your
to
scoring
deploy
units
as many
and bring them
troops as
early.
you can. Yeah. Excellent.
Second core mission is sweep and clear. This one, you are again scoring each turn, but this time you need to control quadrants of the board.
That's
your
like no
deployment zone.
scoring units of theirs in the area, right? And
Yep.
you have to have scoring? Okay.
Yep. And then your deployment zone is in opposite quadrants outside of 9 inches of the center.
Mm-hmm.
In this
I
one,
really like how each of these maps, like the reinforcement allocation, is laid out, where you can really choose where you want to place stuff anywhere. You just got to pay for it.
And I like how they show you exactly what edges they're talking about. There's no
Exactly,
ambiguity
right?
there. They tell you the
Yep.
full extent of the edge you can deploy on.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, for sweep and clear, you can pay +2 reinforcement points to deploy from either the flank edges or your opponent's edge. Any edge
okay.
but your own, +2.
It's free.
Third one is where we start to get spicy. The Strategium Assault. This one is one of my favorite things to see in a mission. The absolute favorite. And it's an asymmetrical mission.
Yeah.
We're not fighting over the same thing. We're trying to do different things. The attacker is trying to capture the enemy deployment zone. Defender gets +2 starting reinforcement points. Total of 8. The defender can lock doors. Defenders paying +2 reinforcement points, though, to deploy on the flanks and can't deploy on the enemy edge. It's really pushing you to just come in from your board edge.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the attacker is paying 1 for each flank or 2 for the enemy edge.
Wow.
The defender is going to be harried very quickly,
Yeah.
but they
And
get to
this
start with
is-
more on the table. And they lock the doors.
Mm-hmm. That's so good, dude. Oh my god. I'm like gushing at the fact, like, I'm thinking of Perturabo sealed up in his room with his Terminators all there. And then fucking Phalanx Ward. Well, I guess they weren't Phalanx Warders, but Breachers, Imperial Fist, and Castellax storming down like, we're gonna fucking punch you to death, Perturabo. Oh man, this is that mission. It's so good, right?
Yep. Love it.
There's so many other scenarios that come to mind immediately from this. I mean, we've got so many examples. I wish Jared was here, so because he'd be throwing them out. Like, there's so many times where Fafnir Ron is leading Breachers in similar defenses like this. You know what I mean? So, man,
There's so many.
I just think that's going to be so good.
Seizing the Strategium is the classic end to a boarding action.
Yeah. And there are rules, you said, to make them kind of like a loosely based narrative. So I'm thinking we maybe look into that, storming a Titan, starting at the legs, working your way up. Final mission, you're going for the head. Oh man.
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Do you have some rules for Titan crew as they hop out of their Titan, pull pistols,
their little
and
las
try and draw
pistols,
down on the Space Marines? I'll give them Archaeotech pistols. They're important people.
You're right.
Yeah.
They probably could afford something like that.
Yeah.
But man, just
Princeps,
the
at
narrative
least.
possibilities with this stuff, guys. Huge.
Like I said, with especially now with a the currency of stratagem points.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm really dying to try these official rules out, but the potential for like custom and like new narrative event rules it's kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
The possibilities are
They're
exciting.
really trying to sell these Zone Mortalis boards, I guess. I don't know why they put so much into these rules, but they really want to move Zone Mortalis boards.
They're good boards, Will.
They're good boards.
What I want to know is how many reinforcement points is going to cost me to open the airlocks. You just start venting sections into space.
Yeah, there's going to be some custom narrative missions.
Oh, yeah.
At Nova or something like that, where that'll be an option, I'm sure. I hope. But is it is it just those 3 missions, or are there more?
It is not. Next up, we have 2 Apex missions. Apex missions are kind of what they're calling the more narrative-focused missions. The idea being that these are kind of the last mission you play in a campaign, and it's what it all comes down to. Our first Apex mission is That Which Waits Below. It's another asymmetrical mission in which there is 1 access point in the center of each edge. The attacker is getting points for killing enemy units and more for capturing the enemy deployment zone. Mm-hmm. The defender, meanwhile, is trying to defend their deployment zone while sending sorties to each of the access points to try and lock them down. Once they're locked down, the attackers can no longer bring in reinforcements.
Way! Oh, is that the sealed bulkheads?
Yeah.
Oh my!
What's interesting is, obviously you can play however you want. It does specifically call out in this Apex mission that the Mechanicum is Mechanicum Trader player is attacker, and Legionis Astartes Loyalist is the defender. They call specific armies out to play this game
with me immediately. Because this would be good. I got the models. I could do a 1500.
I like the little flavor text. It's with Archmagos Dracovic, and he's like basically just sending some nasty shit through this entire zone. It's really cool.
Also interesting is in this one, the attacker does not get the 2 reinforcement points per turn. Instead, they get 1d3 per unlocked access point. So they are very quickly going to be able to put things on the table unless the defender is quick about locking things down.
That's cool.
Wow. Sweet mama.
And if I remember correctly, the defender is only reinforcing from the access point in their deployment zone.
Correct.
Meanwhile, the attacker is coming from everywhere. Everywhere but the defender's deployment zone. Yeah.
Wow. This is a killer mission, dudes.
Honestly, I think it gets better.
Yeah? All right.
Rewards of Corruption is Apex Mission 2. It's asymmetrical.
1,000 Suns and Word Bearers?
Yes. Oof. Maximum
Loyalist
warp
1,000
fuckery.
Suns.
Yeah. What?
Because the attackers are trying to destroy the primary warp nexus and survive. Defenders are trying to prevent that.
Dang.
You put a warp nexus in the center, 2 more on the attacker's side of the battlefield. The attacker then secretly notes which one is the primary. The defender gets to deploy any corrupted infantry from any warp nexus for 1 reinforcement point, regardless of what battlefield role they have. So, corrupted HQ, 1 reinforcement point. Walking out on the attacker's side and straight into the fun. That being said, the Psychers can destroy the warp nexuses. Psyker just needs to be touching the base, rolls 2d6, gets a +1 for any additional Psychers touching. On a 10+, it's destroyed. Otherwise, the unit suffers wounds equal to the number of models touching the nexus. You either shut it down or it shuts you down.
Wow.
Dang. Yeah. God damn.
And then for this one,
get bonuses for. Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay. So more Psychers you have touching it, touching the orb, the better chance you have of locking it down. However, if you roll real crappy, you lose a lot of Psychers potentially.
Yeah. And either side can deploy on the flanks for +1 reinforcement point, and the defender can deploy on the attacker's edge for +3 reinforcement points. I really like this mission. My only hesitation with it is I feel like it's going to be really hard to do without at least one side playing Thousand Suns. Yeah. Also, I'd probably talk to my opponent before playing it and say, hey, demons should be able to come out of those warp rifts, right? Because obviously. But rules is written, demons aren't corrupted, so I don't think so. Unless there's something that says they count as corrupted for all purposes.
Maybe.
It's been a minute since I looked at the demon rules. But either way, demons should definitely be able to come out of those.
Right now, we still have only the bound demon rules. So
right.
And so, of course, the demon type is somewhere out there, too. I have to double check.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't see why anyone would have a problem doing that. This seems like a perfect opportunity to have that go out.
The narrative has, word bearers defending, so of course half of word bearers units are corrupted anyways, and that's the idea, is that you're bringing your units in through there, not summoning demons. Mm-hmm. But I think for any other faction, that'd be fair.
Mm-hmm.
The other side is you are probably going to have some trouble shutting down warp rifts if you don't have a lot of psychers.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean,
I think it's hard to do if you're not T-Suns.
This definitely requires a psyker focused army.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just thinking of other ways to do it. You could probably have maybe for like a certain amount of points. Like if you wanted to be more custom rules, have like basically like psych out grenades or something.
Sure.
That you can buy, that you can attach to your your units for the potential of counting as.
Do nulls not give a certain?
They do not.
Nulls
but I just had
instead?
That thought. You bring
like,
Sisters of Silence.
Walk my sisters
count
over there.
Anathema towards it.
Just be like, all right, this rule counts as a psychic thing. So, yeah, I'd do that. I'd be like that. Yeah, just use the same rules. Just count it as your sisters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and allied detachment of sisters. Then you could probably have a good chance of or not.
Heck,
you'd have to cheese it in narrative.
So
narrative
just bring sisters.
Oh, true.
Yeah. Or have an opponent that's real cool and lets you bring an allied detachment.
It is. I mean, it is narrative after all, right? So
this is much more leaning. This is a lot leaning more towards open play than the previous one. So
for sure,
yeah.
But some definite, very cool rules and some really wacky stuff, as you mentioned.
Really cool stuff, and the kind of scenario writing that I was feeling like GW had been getting away from in Horus Heresy for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's because they wanted the generic missions to be, generic, but
I think they also wanted to save a lot of their special missions for those unique Legion units. What were they called again?
Exemplary battles.
Yeah. I think they were kind of wanting to save their little special missions for that stuff too, I think. But it's good to see, like you said, it's good to see these in their like core books. Like these are narratives that we still support throughout the game and battles that are happening, like they did back in the old Black Books.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next up, they have some stuff that's specific to this campaign book, the Cthonia specific terrain. I'm going to be honest, none of this is particularly groundbreaking, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
First up, we have hardened barricades, which are just a 5-up cover save instead of a 6-up. Sure. Next up's probably the more interesting one, subterranean tunnel. An attacker can place this tunnel outside their deployment zone. On a 4-up, one chosen unit arrives from reinforcements for free from the tunnel.
It's like a 1 per game thing.
Yeah.
Not a bad gimmick. Yeah. I think this next one is my favorite, though.
The next one is certainly the funniest.
Yeah.
Unstable environment. Anytime you fire a blast that is strength 6 or higher, you roll on a table and you have a chance of the ceiling collapsing, it setting off tremors, or a sinkhole opening up.
Yeah. Very, very cool stuff. I like those little rules in there. Those are always fun to add in just for a little bit of randomness. But fuck, man, I so often forget these rules when I have them in custom narrative missions or like narrative events. I'm like, oh shit, we forgot to roll the table rules the whole time. Yeah. Oops.
I think applying
it'd be handy to have like a little, little screenshot or basically little side table little card to remind people of the rules.
Next up is Promethium condenser tanks, which you can use for cover, or they can just be shot and explode.
Yeah, sick. I like
classic red barrels.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. It's the Area 51 barrels right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Fun stuff.
So looking at it, the way they intend these to be used is with the Apex missions.
Okay.
And the each player selects one of these terrain features after placing terrain, but before designating access points.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you use these. It's not a matter of like spending points or anything. You just pick one. Each player picks one and then puts it into the mission. It's kind of neat,
right?
Yeah, definitely. I think for the warp one, choosing unstable environment would absolutely be thematic. I mean, all the warp fuckery going on. I mean, just all kinds of stuff happening, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
Last up for the Zone Mortalis rules, they have a very short, really just one-page set of Zone Mortalis campaign conditions. What this is it's a very minor way of linking the effects of one game into another. How this works is you have a D6 table that you roll on to get a small bonus to your next ZM game. If you win the game, then you have to roll. Then you get to roll with a +1.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't find it particularly inspiring, but hey, more rules, more examples of ways you can run campaigns.
Yeah, there's there's definitely some nice stuff that would help in the campaign, right?
Yeah.
You lose your first game. If you roll that 1 reserves forward, then you get +1 reinforcement points at the end of each game turn. So that's, it might help you win your second game and even the campaign out a little bit, So
yeah,
bunch of things like that. I like it.
Yeah. And with that, we finish out the Zone Mortalis rules in Siege of Cthonia.
Well, that's really cool. It's really neat to see Zone Mortalis now be effectively its own thing.
Yes.
Before it was a slight modification to the standard rule set to, represent, close quarters combat. But now this is like Will said, it feels like its own new game now to play in Horus Heresy.
Yeah, I definitely believe we're going to see people who spend their entire Horus Heresy careers only doing Zone Mortalis. And this is the rule set that they will be raised in because it's such a good rule set, I think.
Mm-hmm. Really keen on giving this a shot.
I mean, I'm seriously trying to consider now a Zone Mortalis army. And I mean, that huge change to jetpacks makes my whole army viable. Before I was like, there's no way I'm going to run my Thalax in Zone Mortalis and just kill myself throughout the entire game as I trip and fall over debris, right?
Yeah.
But now I just don't get that special movement, but I can still bring them and not have to worry about falling or anything like that. So,
yep.
Great stuff, man.
It's really cool. Like after the White Dwarf, where it was effectively a stopgap. They put a lot into it, but it was still a stopgap.
Definitely.
This really feels very fleshed out and exciting.
Yeah, and they were clear that the White Dwarf.
This has to be my next game mode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The next game I get in has to be a Zone Mortalis game, I think. So.
Oh, for sure.
Gotta set that up somehow. Well, listeners, I guess let us know what you think. Are we wrong? Are these rules dog shit? Am I way too hyped about reinforcement points? But I don't think so. I think you're wrong if you think I'm wrong, because I think they're great.
Tell me why I'm wrong, and I'll tell you why you are wrong.
I will leave you with one more thought on reinforcement points. Those numbers don't scale with the game size.
Yeah.
So if you decide to play a small ZM game, that just means you start with everything on the board. You want to play 4,000 points of ZM using the rules as printed, that's fine. But stuff is going to trickle in, and you probably won't get everything on the table.
Yeah, and they mention it as such in a little box out there.
Yes.
Saying it. So then it really does become a tactical sideboard game of
wait,
chicken,
so
basically.
Does it Does it penalize you if you don't bring them on?
No.
No, it does not. As far as I can tell.
It doesn't count them as destroyed or anything like that?
I don't remember seeing, to be honest.
I'll check real quick, but I don't believe so.
Yeah.
Because I believe that's a reserves and ongoing reserves rule. Is where things are still there, they count as destroyed. Yeah. So if there's no reserves and it's reinforcements, something to think about. Jesus Christ. Good.
Yes.
Found it.
Mm-hmm.
Any unit that is placed in reserves and has not been placed on the battlefield by the end of the battle does not count as destroyed for purposes of victory points, primary objectives, or secondary conditions. Or secondary objectives,
reserves,
rather.
Right?
Nope, that's reinforcements.
Oh. Okay. What page is that?
See ya.
Yeah. That's going to be really interesting. Yeah.
Which page is that?
Any unit that is, I think it's 186, any unit that is placed in reinforcements that has not been placed in the battlefield at the end of the battlefield does not count as, wow.
It's the bottom of the reinforcements paragraph.
Right. So you're not panicking to be like, oh, fuck, I got to get everybody on. You can actually be methodical and save up your points to bring your good stuff on. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Michael, thank you so much for digging through this over the weekend and kind of spilling out for us.
Happy to. I love spaceships and I love fighting on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. And so we'll go ahead.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up. Jason had to leave early. His computer died halfway through the classic, Once again, thank you for listening to the Remembrancers Retreat. If you enjoy our program, be sure to go over to patreon.com/RR30K podcast. If you'd like to support us over there, select a tier and get a shout out and our thanks. Will might do a little dance, sing a little song. Also, as a patron member, you also get we have our Discord, which the link is in the show notes. Patrons will have their own patron channel. They get to discuss amongst themselves and us. They get their cool little channel where they can, if they want to do a little hobby blog, they can do that over there as well. Very talented folks over there do some really cool stuff. It's really neat to see. And that's everything I have. If you like the show, be sure to go over to Instagram, Facebook, give us a like, follow us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Leave a review. 5 stars if you really like it. If you don't, send us some feedback.
Tell us why you don't like it. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Give me something else to worry about.
Yeah.
And until then.
But seriously, please let us know if we can improve.
Absolutely. That is the human condition, always moving forward. All right. So once again, we're here with Will and Michael. And until next time, keep those dice rolling and bye for now.
Bye.
Prepare for borders.